it. We're at section 4 on page 42. So if you're on the Zoomer and you have that online or you have your own copy, under suffering, sin, and healing. And I may finish the document today, which will enable me to do some theology of the body stuff tomorrow. We'll see where we go. The bishop reminds us that while we are in the midst of love, in the midst of caring for one another, in the midst of being disciples and apostles, at times there may be suffering or sin that happens in our life and in our families that also demand a little bit of healing. One of the types of suffering, he says, I know that our families that are struggling in their care for ailing children, spouses, and aging grandparents. There's always that illness that comes to play. And some of them may be just simple ailments and illnesses where we have to care for the children for a few days or take care of a bad cold, a fever, a toothache, earache, something or other. Or it could be something a little more serious that we have to take care of. So we are very much aware of that. Or it might be our spouses who are very sick and we have to know what's going on and care for them. Or it's our aging grandparents and the need to care for them and reach out for them and look at the same ways. So he says, I see when parents feel deeply the suffering of a handicapped child. And there are many who long for a child but cannot have one of their own. So family members grieve deeply when a child or parent is prematurely called home. So all these things that happen in our life. So there is some pain at times. There is some suffering. Of course, the loss of a child or what have you. One of the things we've been doing here is if you are on the Yahoo chat that goes through the Holy Family website, you hear from different people say, pray for this person, pray for that person. Some people have written and we've sent it out sometimes to the directory to remind people of the COVID-19. They have it, their children have it, their parents have it, the groups they're with have it. There are different things going on. We've been praying for those people who have been suffering from the fires and from the hurricanes and from the natural disasters. So we're always constantly praying for one another. And it doesn't hurt to call and ask, fellow people, the members of the Institute, and let them know what's going on and let them be aware. Because sometimes we're not aware, especially if the person hasn't been in contact for a while and all of a sudden we find out that they've been in the hospital, they've been sick. So please try to keep us informed so we can send, if you let Zoe know, if you know Margie Harig, who does the directory, she sends a lot of information out. Who's the other lady on the Yahoo? Molly Baker. So she sends some things out. So things to be aware of. Let me know. I'm not always very good on sending stuff out to the rest of the world. We also have not only these personal things that are going on, but there are pains and ills and sufferings within society, like abortion and euthanasia. And that becomes a main issue. That's one of the things some of us were discussing, where some of our priests were standing up and saying you can't vote for a certain person, a certain party, whatever, because of their abortion issues. And that's a part of who we are and what we're proclaiming. And so that's an issue that's very important to us. Euthanasia and caring for those who may have an illness. We also talk about violence and the despair. Let's think of all the violence that's going on right now in our country. And people who are in despair, people who are frightened, people who are lonely, people who are afraid of the things that are going on and what it might develop into. And so there's a lot of things that are happening that we need to be careful for. We also, as a reminder, that consumerism and materialism can enslave us. We get caught up, especially now, people are ordering things online because they can't go. And next thing you know, they see something else online, and then you see something else online. And once you buy something online, as I have bought something online, well, then all of a sudden everybody that has a product that's linked to what I bought online is now telling me to come buy this. And boy, some of those things look pretty good, but I don't have any money, so it's very hard to do that. But we have to keep aspect of that. Again, pornography is an issue that can affect and bring an illness. It is a disease. It is confrontational. It can be damaging to relationships and to spousal relationships and family relationships. And we can't treat it lightly. It's something that we have to affect. Even though it may not be affecting us directly, it is something that we need to be conscious of. We have people, as it says here, we might have children, grandchildren, challenging their sexual identity, who they are, what they are, and what's going on. And we have to deal with that particular situation compassionately, caring for that, and not necessarily to quit loving our children, but respecting them and caring for them, dialoguing with them, and try to find out what is going on. Oftentimes we as clergy have failed with the whole abuse issue, whether it's not reporting, whether people have committed the atrocities in our church. And sometimes people have left the church because of that, or they're afraid, or they don't want their children around we religious and we priests because of the abuse issue. And so it's challenging for all of us to deal with that particular issue in the times that we as the clergy may have failed you in one way or another. We can also, he says, that all families live in a world of extreme busyness, where there are countless activities that sap our energy and time and leave us drained and disconnected, especially when you have lots of children, or you got your grandchildren and everybody's going in all the different directions. When I was growing up, my three sisters and I, several of us played softball, baseball, and other things going on, and who had to be at what field to practice at what time, and who to get there. And at least one of our parents tried to be there at part of the games, if not all the games, and drop you off. I'll be back by the seventh inning. Hopefully I'm in by the seventh inning to play football or whatever. So there was a lot of things going on, and you can find that in our Sunday. People say, "Well, I can't go to mass on Saturday afternoon because that's when the soccer game, the football game, the baseball game, the basketball game, something's going on in sporting events." And then they practice on Sunday morning. And so, I have to have them there at practice, so I can't bring them to church on Sunday morning as well. So we can get caught up in a lot of the busyness and a lot of the things that are going on. We need to provide for one another, but yet it can become a source of suffering. We can have exhaustion, where we're overwhelmed. I'm going to be exhausted by the time I get to 2:30 tomorrow afternoon. And so usually I take Monday off. Now Monday's going to be great. It's Brother Dominic's birthday, my feast day. So it'll be a great day. We'll get our cake and then I'm going to crash for the day. And so, but I usually do that Monday because of the intenseness of doing the things that we are called to, so we can get exhausted. You have some single parents. Some of you might be single parents. Maybe you lost your spouse early, or the issues that are going on there. So the care for and to be the things there. Or there are military families. Military's coming and going, or a parent is gone. And nowadays it's not only the husband, but it could be the wife that's the military person that's away. And so how do you deal long distance and traveling? Some of the TV shows I watch deal with that. There was one that's called SEAL Team, and I watched that. And a husband lost his wife, and now he had two children at home. And so how does he deal with them and their whole response? And I thought it treated fairly well the issues that are going. The other thing is the related suffering may be the excessive use of technology. We have screensavers, preoccupation with the things that are there, and so we have to be aware that it does take us away from relationships with the family, relationships with things. I know there are things out there that can help with technology, and I've seen where it's that plastic flower that's that base is put on the dinner table, and the parent can trigger something that it kills all the cell phones and all the texting and everything, and the kids wondering why they can't text in the dining room, and they just thought, well, the Wi-Fi just doesn't reach there, when really it's the parent, has kicked that on so that they can talk to one another during the table or whatever. Sometimes there's a sense of being by ourselves, especially if we lost a spouse. You know, my mother was left kind of lonely. They had affected many ways. And so that can be suffering that we have to endure when children are gone. Maybe we don't contact with them as much. We lost a spouse. And it can be very effective to us in many ways. It also talked about the technology. When we are alone, we might turn to these sources of entertainment and think that's the best for us. So we end up watching TV all the time, or we playing games or doing different things to try to get us out of our loneliness or out of the things that are going on. So it may not be the best for us. Mother Teresa of Calcutta challenges us, says, today we have no time even to look at each other, to talk to each other, to enjoy each other. And so less and less we are in touch with each other. So the world is lost for want of sweetness and kindness. People are starving for love because everybody is in such a great rush. So we need to take the time to be with one another, talk to one another, see with one another. We also have the suffering of sin that happens in our life. There, unfortunately, can be abuse in families, whether it's physical abuse, whether it's verbal abuse, sexual abuse. And so we have to be aware of that and to deal with that. Maybe some of us have suffered that even ourselves. Our parents or might have been abusive to us, and we need to make sure that we're not abusive to our children or to our spouses. So we have to be careful of that. We might have unhealed wounds that can bleed into relationships in the home. We're not talking to one another. We're always bringing up the things of the past, and we're not able to move on, and that breaks the relationship that's going on. Addictions. We can be addicted to pornography, as we mentioned, addiction to drugs, addiction to alcohol, other addictions that are plaguing us. And we all learn to deal with that. I know a lot of people that have dealt with either their own addictions or a family member that had that addiction, and we all have to tiptoe around, and we all try to do and adjust accordingly until finally some help is given. So that could be a part of the suffering. Of course, we have divorce, and we don't plan on it. Sometimes it happens, and some of us might have divorced parents ourselves that we've experienced. And so we try to make things better this time. And sometimes we might have people that we know that come from divorced families. And the problems, the issues, the concerns there. So a number of my cousins are divorced. And so, how to deal with the issues with their families. There's also perhaps fatherlessness. There might be where their father is missing in families. And again, we give a witness as the Holy Family of the importance of having both the husband and the wife, the mother and the father, as part of the family structure. And but yet there are in society some people where there is no father available in the house. And so perhaps we can be a witness and to demonstrate the importance of it, and to be, as us men, being good fatherly figures to others around us. And then he mentions that there is forgiveness. That is a key to remedying the wounds here. Forgiveness is an important step in the process of healing and sets us free from the pain, resentment, and anger that can enslave and hold on to us too tightly. So while we deal with some of the pain and the issues, some of them we can work with, some of them we can bring healing, some of them we can ask for forgiveness, some of them we can give forgiveness, some of them we can work through and deal as we put our faith and trust in the Lord. He also mentions a future and a hope. He says, Jesus has a plan for your family, and his purposes will not be thwarted by sin and brokenness if you surrender. From the prophet Jeremiah, for I know the plans I have for you, says the Lord, plans for welfare and not for evil, plans to give you a future and a hope. So even in the midst of pain, in the midst of suffering, in the midst of hurts, in the midst of woundedness, there is a future, there is a hope if we put our faith and trust in the Lord. Ask Him to bring healing, ask Him to bring forgiveness, asking Him for helping the situation, bring the situation to the Lord, asking for guidance, asking for direction. We do well, he says, to remember the words of St. Paul from Romans 8:18. I consider that the sufferings of the present time are as nothing compared with the glory to be revealed to us. And every moment of suffering can also be an act of love. We can learn from that. We can deal with that. We can know the Lord is with us. We know that He endured His own suffering because He loved us so much. And in this way, He'll be able to grow with us. Even a marriage, the bishop says, even a marriage or family wounded by rebelliousness, neglect, abuse, or rejection is still a sacrament, source of grace and mercy. And sometimes the image that we need is the image of the cross of Christ. He loves us. What's the divine mercy for the sake of His sorrowful passion? Yes. Ooh, not quite yet. But maybe. So that is, the mercy that brings for ourselves the sorrow that the Lord had, bring about mercy in our lives. The sacraments are also a way of Jesus' healing. We receive them with proper readiness. Confession and the frequent reception of the Eucharist is particular healing for our souls. We have the body of Christ, the presence of Christ. We have Jesus within us. Go to confession. Express my sorrow. Ask for forgiveness. Go right the wrongs that I have done. Deal with the issues, the pain and the suffering. But I know as a confessor, I don't have all the answers. But I can pray, can be with you, and give you the graces of that sacrament. But I may not have the answers to all that has been going on. In the midst of looking at this pain, the sorrow, and suffering, he brings us in the next section about Louis and Zélie Martin, the mother of the Martin sisters, the most famous being St. Teresa of Lisieux. And of course, they were pronounced as saints together, the first married saints of modern times. And they were embracing the vocation they had. They lost a number of children. I believe they had a couple of boys, if I remember correctly. Ended up with just the girls. And we also see here that Zélie died when the youngest was like 4 years old. And so Louis Martin had to take care of all his girls and care for them. St. Teresa of Lisieux and her story of the soul reveals that the spirituality of the little way which she made famous was really a discovery of the deeper meaning of her own childhood. Lived within the circle of the devotion of her family. It says here they were married in 1858. Louis and Zélie both worked hard as business owners. They lived modestly and prayerfully, staying close to the sacraments. They would bury 2 infant sons and thus surrender all their hopes for a priest in the family. And they also had 2 of their daughters also died. One in infancy and one at the age of 5. The next sacrifice was Zélie, who died of cancer when Teresa was only 4 years old. So again, they had their own pain, their own suffering, but yet they were saints. They committed themselves to the Lord, allowed the Lord to speak in their lives. So it's given us as a witness of a married couple. So he says the church gives them to us, to you, as mothers and fathers, as witnesses to the joy of the restorative hope of the resurrection, to the grace to bear the heaviest crosses, and to the sanctity of marriage and family life. And so that was a way of maybe reflecting upon their lives. Go to St. Paul's publisher, Staten Island, New York, has a book on Zélie, Louis Martin. We have a number of books on the life of St. Teresa of Lisieux, so check it out. We have the biography of her parents. The next section is how can we strengthen family life, section 5. He says, I entrust to you the following 6 additional key areas of growth for your marital and family spirituality. He says 2 of them he emphasized into the breach in his exhortation for men in the diocese. The first is to keep holy the Lord's Day. The Sunday Eucharistic liturgy is the height of the week. He says, go together. Make Sunday Mass attendance a non-negotiable when it comes to planning the family calendar, even when the family is away on vacation. Go to Mass. Be there. I went to Mass in a place in Kentucky when visiting my sister, and it was an offshoot from Moorhead where I went to school, and my sister was working in the area. And there was a family that had 13 kids. So when the 13 kids in the family were not there, I'm not sure they even had Mass on Sunday because it really did Mass. But the kids were everything. They were the readers, they were the Eucharistic ministers, they were the servers. The family was there, and so I happened to be there with my sister at the time. So it was me and my sister and the 13 kids, and mom and dad. The priest came, of course, but it's made it very important that we be there. So he says, make sure that we attend the liturgy, especially on Sunday. Make it a holy day. Make it a very special day. He says there are many ways of making this day very holy. He says, first of all, by worshiping in the Mass with fervor and reverence. Have reverence for the Mass. So 1, as I mentioned earlier, dressing for Mass should reflect the solemnity of the occasion. You don't wear your halter top. You don't wear your swim trunks. You don't wear your tank top and your shorts. You dress up a little bit. That's where you have, I think, the African American community really sometimes puts us to shame when you see them all out in their Sunday finery when they go to worship. Challenge us to do the same thing. Second of all, we should arrive for Mass early, and we honor the Lord, in whose house we are guests, avoiding the rush. Also, the other challenge is to make sure when we come that we're not necessarily talking to one another and the people around us, but we have the time to put ourselves in prayer, put ourselves in reflection. And so we don't want to become rushing in. I remember serving over Regina Chaley in Alliance many years ago. We were the priest helping out on Sunday. And the person that always came in late was the server who lived right next door to the church. And the pastor there said, I just can't see. He lives right next door to the church, and he's always like coming a minute before we're supposed to go out, and he could be here 15 minutes and no problem. He said, I don't know others that have to drive or whatever, but we get in there. The other is showing reverence in front of Jesus, present in the tabernacle. So we genuflect or give a nice bow and to honor him and to know where he is. I know sometimes it's hard to find where the Lord is in a modern church, but usually there's a tabernacle there somewhere that will remind us where he is. And some of us might be able to go down on the knee. Getting back up might be more of a trouble. So just go a nice bow. Father Jeff used to do a quick curtsy all the time. And I found to Father, I said, that really looks bad. I said, just do a nice reverential bow, which he started doing later in his life, which I thought was a lot more than that quick curtsy that he was trying to do. So have reverence for the tabernacle. Participating actively in Mass by the prayerful silence, by singing and speaking the responses with conviction and fervor, and inviting our children to do the same. So we teach them the language of the Mother of the Church. Doesn't hurt to show them Latin on occasion, singing a little Gregorian chant. The Lord be with you. No. And also with you, with your spirit, whatever it is these days. I've had it where you sort of wonder if anybody's awake when you come out there. So actively participate, sing, and use the time for prayer when it's quiet times. It doesn't have to be constant music, constant singing. There are times for prayer, so have that respect. We also on Sunday, he said the entire day can and should be lived in a holy way with prayer and good times together and fun. As I said, we used to go out as a family driving around or playing games, or even if it is watching TV or watching a program together and being there, making it important. Our Sunday meals were always the big meal at lunchtime. My dad used to cook the meals on Sunday. So that was nice to have everybody there for the thing. So make Sunday not only holy because it's a very special day, but make it very special by doing things together. He encouraged us to do monthly confession. And you can do it as a whole family. Take the whole family on a Saturday afternoon when most places have confessions. Bring them in and get them to go to confession. And that becomes a witness of how important. Teach them how to do it. Get them in to see the pastor so they're not afraid to go to confession. Try to do it on a monthly basis. We teach our children to go to confession regularly, once per month, and you will instill in them a habit that will guard their soul throughout their lives. It becomes routine, it becomes important for them to do that. He also encourages on a regular basis, as often as possible, have a daily family meal. Can we come together in the evening? A regular meal together as a family has a certain grace to it, a spiritual gravity, an ability to foster discovery of each other over time. One social study found this regular meal to be the #1 family habit that led to children's success in school. Again, lots of things going on. Coming home. Got to eat early because I have practice at 6 or 6:30. Whether it's a sporting event. I was in the band, so the band had practice. So a lot of things going on, but try to have, if possible, a family meal together. Find out what's going on, talk to one another. Get rid of that technology. The family meal, as unrushed as possible, is where real encounters happen between parents and children, between siblings, and members outside the immediate family. We can discuss, we can argue, we can fight. One of my little things about sitting at the family table, my sister's left-handed, I'm right-handed. We sat at the table and bumped elbows for about 2 years before we realized if we would just switch seats, we'd be okay. Get away from me, quit buzzing me, what are you doing? Took us a while, but we got there. So now whenever we come, she always runs and grabs that corner seat, so she's not bumping anybody left-handed. And the more busy we make ourselves in giving into this temptation, the more difficult it will be to sit down and eat as a family, because he says Satan, again, is trying to break us up. The family, as we talked about earlier, St. Lucy of Fatima, mentioned that Satan is battling the family. He'd like to see families fall apart, break apart, not function. And so he's going to find ways to break out. So try to get that meal together. It's a great time to do it. He also says you need to prioritize your time together as spouses. Perhaps not initially obvious as part of a plan for spiritual life is the necessity of regular time away. Get that date night. Sorry, kids. Mom and dad are going out. You're on your own. Yay, go! That's the way to do it, yes. Go have a date. Also, other times alone, together as spouses. Perhaps a retreat time. Perhaps a time on marriage encounter or marriage retreats. Vacation time. Maybe find a time that you can go before the Blessed Sacrament. Do some adoration time or prayer time together. We'll come together as a couple and pray before the Blessed Sacrament. It's a great time to pray and to be with one another. Again, he mentions Additional commitment as an annual weekend retreat as spouses. Also, when he talks about coming back once again to technology, establish clear digital boundaries. Without establishing clear boundaries for digital devices at home, your plan for a spiritual life can easily be undermined and even sabotaged. Perhaps look at where you have your technology and computers out in a place where everybody can see it. It's in the living room. It's in a public place, so it's not private. Limit the time of your children. Limit the time for yourselves. I'll go at certain times to look at things. Be aware of pornography. Be aware of the bad information out there on the internet. He says, dear parents, it is my strong advice that whenever possible, you allow your children to be children. Delay access to these digital devices and then restrict their use in favor of real play, real conversation, and real friendship. You guys decide how early do they need the cell phone. How time can they just run around, go outside? When I was growing up, we played the inappropriate game called guns. Got a stick. You divide it up, or you didn't even divide up in teams. You'd run around, and if you come around a corner, you decide who shot who first. You'd lie down and count to 10. The other guy would run away. Maybe took your gun. And you had these 5 houses, because we lived on a dead-end street, of course. These 5 houses were the ones that you could run. Probably not appropriate today. But we got outside, we got dirty. You got dirt in your mouth. Skinned your knee, fell off the bike. Roller skates. I wasn't a great roller skater. But we went out there and we weren't sitting inside. Only when I was learning the piano, I had to do that. So he said, let your children get out and enjoy. He says, I have known families that do not allow television and computers to be placed in private rooms, but only in more public places. Some have set specific times or curfews for the use of portable devices. Other families have decided not to allow access to portable devices until their children are ready to drive. Oh my God. And when there may be a need to know where they are in an emergency. All of these can be thoughtful solutions. I remember when my niece started with her telephone, all she had was able to call back. And the key is my mom said, I want to know where you are. If you went to Betty's house first and then you decided to go to Andrea's house, call and tell me you went to Andrea's house. Just so I know that's where you're at. And so that's when she started. The gift of your time, which is a non-renewable resource, is given to you by God for experiencing real life. There's that story of the gift of time given in the bank. You're given so many minutes per day. So how do you use it? Do you have any time left over? Use it wisely. Then he talks about bringing Mary consecration into your home. He talks specifically about Our Lady of Guadalupe being about the Southwest, many Hispanics in his diocese. And it's also one of the patrons of the United States, Mexico, the Americans, Our Lady of Guadalupe. So we might want to foster, as he says, some Marian consecration in our home. He says, remarkably, as many millions were leaving the Catholic faith in Europe due to the corruption of the Church and the devastating rebellion of Luther and others in the Protestant Reformation, within one decade of the miracle of Our Lady of Guadalupe, some 10 million Native Americans came to the faith with the help of Jesus' mother and a humble Native man. Close one door, open another. So it may not be our devotion. Maybe it is some other Marian devotion. Mary, Queen of Apostles, the Immaculate Heart of Mary, some other title, Our Lady of Fatima. what have you. So he says, bring some Marian consecration into our home. Bring Mary. She's a mother. She can help us. She was married. She was a wife. Knows how to do that. He says, my dear sons and daughters, if you haven't done so already, invite Our Lady to dwell with you, through consecrating your home to Jesus through her Immaculate Heart. Bring some consecration of Mary into your life. Bring Mary into your home. He says, according to Father Michael Gately, who many of us know from many books, he says the second largest consecration to Our Lady in history is taking place here and now in the United States, and I am greatly encouraged by this fact. 33 days to morning glory. Now, this is my thought, and I've shared with some of you. I would love to have Father Michael Gately come and talk to the Holy Family Institute. I don't know how much he's going to charge me, and I don't know, it might be 3 years before I can get him. Okay, he doesn't charge. Well, fine. But I don't know his time frame, because I know some of these great speakers. But I would love to have him come. And one of the ways would be maybe with the shrine, say, okay, the Holy Family Institute is sponsoring Father Michael Gately to come to the diocese. So that you can use the big space up there and say, okay, come on a Wednesday or a Thursday. And then maybe 2 days specifically for us. So nobody else, so you don't want everybody to come in, but we would want him to talk to us specifically. So whether it's 2 days or 1 day, and maybe because he is so well known, you have a lot of people coming, you could sponsor it and be a way to promote who we are. So I think of what I can do, because I've seen some of his videos. I've actually met Father Gately at one point, and but I'm sure he doesn't remember who I am. He's written a lot of books, as we know, and many of us are done a lot of the books and the things that he's done for us. So that would be good. But again, it's a Marian thing to go on with us. And so finally, in conclusion, he says, dear husbands and wives, mothers and fathers, whom I have the privilege to serve as a spiritual father, let your hearts rejoice anew at God's call to bear witness to Jesus and his gospel by loving one another in the very family in which you are now living. He's given you your family, and he's given you the Pauline family, and he's given you the Holy Family Institute. So let your hearts rejoice anew in God's call. It is not by chance that Jesus called you and me to be his witnesses at this troubled time in history. In the post-sexual revolution, confusion, now he is calling us to know, love, and serve him in the final battle about marriage and family, of which Sister Lucia wrote. He has chosen you, whom he has joined in marriage, to be at this time in history an icon of his love for his bride, the church. And he says, Jesus, Mary, and Joseph, you who live family most heroically, pray for us. So that concludes our talk today, concludes our Complete My Joy. Tomorrow I will offer a reflection from one of the Theology of the Body Institute conferences I listened to and participated in earlier this year, which I think will go very well with this. Again, I encourage you to read that document again. I didn't cover every little line or paragraph in there. You can get it on PDF, you can get it downloaded, you can print it out yourself. I do have copies. So if you want a copy here today, take it with you. If you know others that might want it. If you are Zooming with us and would like a copy, let me know. Send me an email, and we'll try to get it out to you. Especially, as I said, my plan is for our Zoomers and people is When we get through this Triduum, then I'm going to start sending some stuff to you. I'm going to send you the prayer book that we just printed out. I'm going to send you the statute that we just made a new one. I'm going to send you the calendar that we usually have with the date for next year, and it'll be for 2021. And I can send Complete My Joy to some of you if you need it. So please let me know, and I'll try to get, I have them in Spanish as well if you feel you need to have that. I have limited numbers of copies. I think I may have 60, 65 copies, and then I've given a lot out here. The Knights of Columbus have it as well. So any of you who are my brother Knights, you can order through the Knights of Columbus. They have that. Into the Breach can be given from them as well. So we do that. Okay, just to cover our time frame for today and from our Zoomers, because we're going to say goodbye to our Zoomers here in just a few moments. And Zoe is checking to see if there's anything I need to know from them. We're going to take a little bit of a break. And at 3 o'clock, we're going to go upstairs. And my fellow priest and myself will be available for confession. So this is the time you can go in and out if you want, or if you want to go up early and to settle in and do a little prayer time. And then at 3:30, I will expose the Blessed Sacrament on the main altar. And then at 4 o'clock, we will do a rosary and conclude, and then we'll have benediction at the end. So that basically 3 to 4 will be your own private time for prayer. So if you want to read the Complete My Joy, if you want to read your own devotions, you want to read the prayer book, if you want to, I mentioned at Mass today, your own Magnificat, if you want to do it, bring your liturgy booklet. There's prayers from the Holy Family. Bring your prayer manual if you have it, whatever you want to do. I just do ask that some of you start the prayer of the Rosary at 4 o'clock. Whatever mysteries you want to do the ones for the day, which are what, glorious mysteries. And I always forget those. I mix my rosaries up all the time. So. Well, see what I do when we do our holy hours here during the week. We only do rosaries on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So if you only do Tuesdays and Thursdays, then that means 2 of your mysteries you're never going to do. So when I was doing it, I would do over a course of 2 weeks, I would get all 4 mysteries. So I do the joyful, and then I do the luminous, then I do the sorrowful, I do the glorious, even though they didn't match Tuesday and Thursday. But then you would never get to those other ones. So that's why I'm confused. I don't know when Saturday rolls around, which one of the 4 I do. But I figure you got to do one of them. So choose whichever you want to do. And then usually somebody starts, and then different people will do the mystery. If you want to use the manual of prayer, whatever the case may be, as far as a reflection, you can do that as well. I'm not going to do it myself because I'm going to continue hearing confessions up until everybody has finished coming, but I will be there with you. Then we'll be done for the day. Now, tomorrow on your schedule, it's not listed, but we're going to begin at 9 o'clock, like we did today, 9 o'clock. So I prefer if you be here before 9 o'clock so that we can start right away. And the reason why we're going to do morning prayer tomorrow from our HFI liturgy book at 9 o'clock. We will do it right here, and we will start our Zooming so we can join with prayer with our Zoomers.
When do we start?
9 o'clock.
Right.